Hi, this is Derek Jordan. Welcome to the World Fusion Show, where we bring you the leading innovators in world fusion music. Today, my guest is Paul Austerlitz, who is a composer, bass clarinet player, author, ethnomusicologist, and teacher. And he has a deep connection with Dominican Republic and Haiti. Welcome, Paul Austerlitz, to the World Fusion Show.
Well, thank you. It's really a great pleasure to be here with you, Derek.
So great. Thank you so much for coming. So I was going to ask you about your, early inspiration, but I know that you got very into jazz in high school and you used to go to a lot of shows and you grew up in New York City. So tell me about, what was happening for you then?
So I was so privileged. Like I used to go hear Elvin Jones a lot at the Village Vanguard and all these Duke Ellington alumni band that they had. Joe Jones, Papa Joe Jones was playing down the block from my house. And I also heard a lot of salsa because I was in New York. So then when I came to Bennington College,
where we met.
And we met,
Yeah.
and we became friends back then. And I looked up to you because you were 2 years older than me, and Derek was doing all this great stuff.
That's always how it seems, right?
Yeah, it was amazing. But you were a big inspiration to me.
Oh,
and there I also met Milford Graves.
Yeah.
So having had that experience in New York, being exposed to Latin music in New York, primed me for studying with percussionist Milford Graves, who taught at Bennington, who was very into African drumming and Afro-Latin drumming. And I stayed in touch with him, and I'm still working with him, and I've done research with him. And then I became an ethnomusicologist, so I did research on music, as you said, in the Dominican Republic, Haiti. I've traveled in Africa, and stayed in touch with Milford Graves, and written a couple of books. And now I've been going back and kind of revisiting the music that I studied as an ethnomusicologist and doing creative projects, so combining my background with Coltrane and Elvin and doing my own thing, because I didn't want to just be on the sidelines as like the observer. And I never really was. I always did both. But now that I'm getting a little older, I'm focusing more on my own collaborative creative projects with long-term collaborators in Haiti and the Dominican Republic.
We also studied composition at Bennington, right?
Right.
So that was really what attracted you there.
Exactly.
Like me to begin with.
That's true.
And it was an incredible, very special time when we were there. I also, as I've said many times, was a huge disciple, as were as Milford Graves. And I'm hoping to have him on the show at some point later on. So we're talking about that. So I would like to go to the first video, which is a video called Earth Prayer, and you're playing with Royal Hartigan, who has also been on the show. So tell us about this video.
Okay, so this is I went to Haiti many times, usually side trips from the Dominican Republic, where I was doing most of my research and teaching and working in the Dominican Republic. And I just got really interested in the spiritual traditions there. And I went on many pilgrimages of the voodoo religion there.
Sure.
And I was privileged to work with Papa Max Beauvoir, who ended up becoming my spiritual guide. He passed away very recently. And this is a prayer that is sung in the beginning of ceremonies. And then I did stuff to it. I put jazz harmonies to it,
You adapted
solos and stuff like that. So it's actually a traditional prayer. And Zila is the singer. She's an amazing Haitian singer. And also I have Benito Gonzalez on piano, who's one of the best pianists in New York now.
Yeah.
And Santi Debriano on bass.
Yeah. Let's take a look at it right now.
We're just recording the CD. It's music I wrote. A lot of it is based on Haitian and traditional music also from the Yoruba people and also from Finland, where I was born. One tune and just some great jazz pieces.
Yeah, all right, good. So you have a PhD in ethnomusicology, and you also lived at one time in New York City in a Dominican neighborhood. And you've been very involved playing in Latin bands, and throughout your time, you spent a lot of time in the Dominican Republic doing research and teaching there as well, right? So you started a band there. I mean, you have a very strong connection. What drew you to the Dominican Republic?
Well, it was first like really studying with Milford Graves and getting interested in Afro-Caribbean stuff. And then I went to New York and I found out that merengue was like really hot then. And I played the saxophone and I played the bass clarinet and contrabass clarinet. That's what that big instrument is.
It's a great sound.
So I played wind instruments, but I loved rhythm, you know? And I realized like in merengue, they use the saxophone in such a rhythmic way, almost like a drum.
Yeah.
And there was also demand for saxophonists in merengue bands in New York at the time. So then I got into it, and then I just fell in love with the culture, and the people were so warm and welcoming, you know? And then it was only after that that I decided to go to graduate school for ethnomusicology, and I wrote my PhD dissertation on the history of Dominican merengue, which then became a book. And but more recently, my new album, which is coming out right now, is called Dr. Merengue, because it's kind of a joke, because my PhD is about merengue. You know? But merengue is like just party music, so
right,
Dr.
so
it sounds funny. But I was able to start a band, as you say, about 10 years ago with people who were my teachers, who were the ones that were teaching me about the music, and who I talk about in the book. I say Julio Figueroa. I think he's the best tambora player in the DR. He doesn't like it when I say that, because that creates problems of jealousy. The other people, so then they're like my very close friends there. They're like my family. It's my second country. So I started this band with them, and the music on our CD is actually music that I talk about in my book. So they're old historical and regional rural variants of merengue that most people probably wouldn't know about anymore, but I kind of go into like a lot of scholarly background of them. But then I thought, hey man, I want to do my own thing with it.
That's right.
And so the video I did has Duluc, who's like a superstar of Dominican music in his own right. He's a great singer and dancer and also drummer who did a lot of research on traditional music himself. So he's my collaborator. So we focused on this one. It was like the earliest merengue piece that I could find, composed by Nico Lora in the early 20th century. And it has the original version actually has jazz. It sounds like jazz, but I don't think they were listening to jazz. I just think the ingredients of jazz were there, because it had the African influences, and then it had the European influences that kind of came together in a different way there, but it's almost like jazz started in different places at the same time.
And there's a very long and rich history of Latin music and jazz. Dizzy Gillespie and many people. Too many to mention now. I'd like to go to the next video, which is a Dominican, shows a Dominican group that you're working with. Want to say something about this? Yeah, so this piece is it was the oldest merengue piece that I found out about, or the oldest merengue style, I would say, that actually dates to like the very early 20th century. So we just kind of recreated it, but in our own way. And I found that I didn't have to change the way I played to play that. Like in the one part of it, for example, I'm playing the
the chord progression of Coltrane, John Coltrane's Giant Steps, which is this
Right.
very like weird chord progression.
Right.
Which there's a version of that in the last clip we saw.
I
N
saw.
art is train spelled backwards. John
Okay,
Coltrane.
all
So
right.
that's Giant Steps.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm playing Giant Step stuff on this one too, but no one knows.
Yeah.
And non-jazz nerds, people that aren't jazz
Right.
nerds, are gonna dig it. I hope. I mean, my hope is that you'll like it because I want to do jazz, but I don't want it just to be for people that only listen to jazz.
Sure,
you know?
sure, of course.
And that's the brilliance of Chano Pozo and Diz and Machito and all these Latin jazz people, that they were bringing
So many.
all this bebop and really jazz stuff in a way that everyone can just enjoy, you know?
That's right.
So that's what we're trying to do. So I don't think of time linearly. It's a pool. We're
Yeah.
all now.
Yeah.
It's still happening now.
Right.
And we're in the same place as all these ancestors were. It sounds mystical, like they're with us, but they're inside of us too,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
We are them.
Right. Let's watch the video.
Por aquella palma, donde nacen tantas flores, donde nacen tantas flores, por aquella palma. Por aquella palma, ay, donde nacen todas mis flores, donde nacen todas mis flores, por aquella palma. En aquí yo voy a tocar. En aquí yo voy a tocar. Ay, polole, ay, tonala.
Yeah, cool. Very nice. So I wanted to just get your opinion on cultural appropriation because as an educator, I'm sure you've done a lot of thinking about it. So what do you think about this?
Well, I think that, I mean, there's a lot of people talking about appropriation now in a way as if it was bad to talk about it. I've noticed, and I think that I understand that because hybridity, nothing comes from one place and no one in a way owns music because it's an oral tradition.
That's right.
So I'm all for fusion and hybridity. I mean, look at what I'm doing. You know?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I really think it's important to pay homage to our ancestors and where certain things do come from particular communities.
That's right.
And we live in a world of unequal power relationships. So when I play music from another culture, it's very important that I acknowledge that this is the ancestral tradition of people from the Dominican Republic
That's
or
right.
Haiti. And I'm an outsider who has been welcomed there. And people there have been very happy to work with me. So the hybridity is all happening and the fusion. But the thing is that if I were to go in there and pretend that I owned it, that would be wrong,
Yeah.
especially in the history of colonialism and slavery and continued neo-colonial relationships and economic inequities of our world.
That's right.
And that has happened over and over again in the history of jazz. There has been a lot of wide appropriation of jazz. So it's not a matter of, it's because of institutional racism. It's not the intention necessarily of the appropriator to appropriate. But I think that if the person that comes from the more privileged, economically and racially and gender privileged side, that doesn't acknowledge actively that they are participating in someone else's cultural patrimony and matrimony, there's something wrong with it.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's really important actually to talk about cultural appropriation, not as a downer, as a thing like let's not do fusion and
Right.
work together, but just to acknowledge when you're a visitor in a culture and acknowledge the ancestors that have generously taught us.
That's right. Yeah. That's great. I agree with you about respecting the cultures. I wanted to ask you about your work in Haiti. And for our audience who may know, they share the same island,
Right.
Dominican Republic and Haiti, but had different colonial masters. And as such, really left a different mark on each culture. You want to talk about that a little, and then also about your work in Haiti?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, the thing is that Haiti is, I think, one of the most important countries in modern world history because it was founded as the result of a successful slave uprising. In 1804, the Republic of Haiti was founded, and the enslaved people there just said, no, we're not doing this. And it was also during the period of the French Revolution, where people were supposed to be free, I guess, but they said, hey, wait, what about us, you know? And so it really, that liberation is really like an inspiration to all liberation movements since then.
Yeah.
And the Dominican Republic was, it's sort of had another way of negotiating that. Let's just leave it at that. And they haven't always gotten along, the two countries.
I know.
So it's been kind of tough. But I go to both, and I've been doing research on both sides. I really, really love Haitian culture and spirituality.
Yeah.
So I play tenor saxophone, and I also do wah-wah effects on the bass clarinet because I always loved Jimi Hendrix.
Well,
I thought,
me too.
I didn't want to why are the guitar players having all the fun, man?
I know.
Hey, man, I hooked that up. And then on the video, we don't play in the video, but I took actual videos of the beginning of the video is rara music, R-A-R-A, which is a processional kind of music.
Yes.
And we're playing rara music.
Let's go to the video and watch this now. That's you playing tenor, right?
Yeah, it's tenor, yeah.
Tenor sax.
And the beginning was bass clarinet with the wah-wah.
With the wah-wah, I was going to say.
fun,
I
man.
couldn't let that go by.
It's fun.
So Paul Austerlitz, I want to thank you so much for joining us today on the show. Thanks for making it a year.
Hey, thanks. It's just a reunion, man.
It is.
I saw you about 20 years ago or
Long
more.
time.
Yeah.
Anyway, we are now going to go to the part of the show where we do live in the studio playing. We're going to be joined by our old friend and classmate, Jared Shapiro.
Right.
Playing cello, so we're all getting ready for that. I'm sure it's going to be lots of fun. Also, please, everybody, join us and subscribe to the YouTube channel where you can see this show and all the other previous shows that we've put out. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Derek Jordan. This is the World Fusion Show. And remember, think globally, listen locally, and support independent music.